Well, that's interesting. We go to preferences, audio. Check a different speaker. It's working before. And
Hare
now
Krishna.
it's not working.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. You still can't hear.
So odd. Time to pull out the headphones.
Dear devotees, let's hold on. Working on it. Microphone. It's working on its microphone, and hopefully it works. Obviously, we can hear him, but he cannot hear us. So we'll see. Hare Krishna, Prabhu, can you hear me now? Let me do this.
I don't know what I'm hearing you through, but I can hear you.
Okay, good. We can hear you too.
Oh, good. Okay.
We're good.
Well, we solved that. Vanchakapatrubhascha kripasindhu.
Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, dear devotees, today we are very much blessed to have the association of His Grace NRSIMHANANDA Prabhu, who is a direct disciple of our Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. I think this is our first time having Prabhuji's association on this platform. Some of us have followed him online for quite some time, but on this platform today seems to be his first time being with us. So Prabhuji, you are very much welcome to Hare Krishna Africa. And virtually you are in Africa today. Hopefully someday soon you physically find yourself in Africa, but virtually you are in Africa today. Hare Krishna. Welcome.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you. Africa is it's very similar to here in that birth and death and old age and disease are common to all continents. Were you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, good. All right. So
what we do, Srila Prabhupada has already chanted the Jai Radha Madhava. Other devotees also prefer to chant the Jai Radha Madhava themselves. And if you choose to do that, you may do that, but the devotees will be quiet because it creates distortion if everybody begins to follow suit with the chanting. But Srila Prabhupada has already chanted the Jai Radha Madhava. So what we usually do, we put the verse, the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM verse on the screen, and you discuss it just as you would in the temple room. And after the class, devotees may ask questions and you answer the questions. We usually give like maybe an hour, but there is no set time. It depends on the mood and the interest to go. As long as you want to go, we are here for you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. And I try to keep the class to about the same time as Srila Prabhupada kept his classes, about 30 minutes, and then a time for question and answers.
Good.
As you know, the attention span of most human beings these days is about 30 minutes.
You're right about that, Prabhuji. Probably less than that.
And my attention span for listening to myself is about 30 minutes.
Hare Krishna.
Then I got to get bored with myself after a while.
Hare Krishna. So, Prabhuji, that being said, we may put the verse on the screen and you may take it from there.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
All right, we're going to go ahead. Prabhupada has chanted the prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Now, Narayanam Namaskrita Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiriyat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayan unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, and unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Srinvatam Svam Krishna Punyam Shravana Kirtana Hridiya Tasto Hiyabradrani Dotati Sarichatam. Sri Krishna, the personality of God, who is the Paramatma, the super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Nastai pareshu abradreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, by rendering a service to the pure devotee, all that's troublesome to the heart almost completely is destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who's praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So the verse today, let's look at that verse here. It's not too big. Oh, there it goes. Nishamya Shapta Atad Aram Narandram Sabarmano Natmajam Abhiyanat Dat Aho Pratamo Mahad Ajate Kritam Apiyasi Droha Ururdamo Dritaha Nishamya Saptamatad Arham Naredram Sabrahmano Natmajam Abhayanandat Aho Batam Ho Mahad Adyate Kritam Alpiyasi Droha Ururdamo Dritaha Nishamya Saptamatad Arham Naredram Sabrahmano Natmajam Abhayanandat Aho Batam Ho Mahad Adyate Kritam Alpiyasi Droha Ururdamo Dritaha. Nishamya, after hearing, Saptam, cursed, Atat Arham, never to be condemned, Nara Idram, unto the king, best of humankind, Saha, that, Brahmanaha, Brahmana Rishi, Na, not, Atmajan, Jam, by his own son, Abhiyanandat, congratulated, Aho, alas, Bata, distressing, Amha, sins, Maha, great, Adya, today, Te, yourself, Kritam, performed, Alpiyasi, insignificant, Drohe, offense, Uru, very great, Damaha, punishment. Dritaha, awarded. Translation by his the father heard from his son that the king had been cursed, although he should never have been condemned, for he was the best amongst all human beings. The rishi did not congratulate his son, but on the contrary, began to repent, saying, "Alas, what a great sinful act was performed by my son. He is awarded heavy punishment for an insignificant offense." Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The king is the best of all human beings. He is the representative of God, and he's never to be condemned for any of his actions. In other words, the king can do no wrong. The king may order hanging of a culprit son of a Brahmin, but he does not become sinful for killing a Brahmin. Even if there's something wrong with the king, he's never to be condemned. A medical practitioner may kill a patient by mistaken treatment, but such a killer is never condemned to death. So what to speak of a good and pious king like Maharaj Parikshit? In the Vedic way of life, the king is trained to become a Rajarsi, or a great saint, although he's ruling as a king. It is the king only by whose good government the citizens can live peaceably and without any fear. The Rajarsis would manage their kingdom so nicely and piously that their subjects would respect them as if they were the Lord. That's the instruction of the Vedas. The king is called Narendra, or the best among human beings. How then could a king like Maharaj Parikshit be condemned by an inexperienced, puffed up son of a Brahmin, even though he had attained the powers of a qualified Brahmin? Since Samaka Rishi was an experienced good Brahmin, he did not approve of the actions of his condemned son. He began to lament for all that his son had done. The king was beyond the jurisdiction of curses as a general rule, and what to speak of a good king like Maharaj Parikshit? The offense of the king was most insignificant, and his being condemned to death was certainly a very great sin for Srinji. Therefore, Rishi Samaka regretted the whole incident. Poor guy. Tough. They say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, but in this case, it's kind of an apple that got a little rotten there for a bit. Anyway, let us say Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Agyanata Varandasya Gana Gana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurev Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes, blinded by the torchlight of knowledge. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Well, I know you've been reading this chapter of the first canto. When I joined 1971, it was pretty much very few books. Second canto wasn't even done yet. First canto was there. The second canto wasn't so widely available. I joined in Chicago, Illinois, 1971. We had the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, which were way over my head. We had this first volume of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And everything is there in that first volume. It's so brilliant. And amazingly, it was all written before Prabhupada came to the US. So it was his realization sitting in that, and his ecstasies sitting in that Radha Damodar temple that in his quest to fulfill the order of a spiritual master, he was writing this for the Western audience, but he was living in that rural little kind of off the road place called Brindavan. Not very little, kind of a little hamlet and not very well visited except by saintly people. Nothing what it is like it is today. So, you begin to think that our life in those days was formed by so many of the statements that Prabhupada made from those realizations and those writings that he was expressing as a man with a mission, but a mission unfulfilled. I think all of us can identify with unfulfilled missions because filling the shoes, the chappals of the spiritual master's orders is no small task. And it is asked and very difficult to fulfill. And even when you fulfill them, you don't feel like you've fulfilled them fully. I think that's by design to always keep us looking for the nectar for which we're always anxious. Anyway, this first canto, particularly this chapter, was extremely transformative for us as early devotees. Everything about it, the nature of what Prabhupada was speaking, just pierced our hearts, so much so that we were fanatics, absolute cultists. We just accepted everything that Prabhupada had said as the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Therefore, a lot of people, they thought that we were brainwashed because we were simply reciting much of what we found in this first canto. And it was the first canto that actually became the first big books to be distributed. So I started to review what you have read, been reading, if you've been attending regularly, which we're supposed to do these classes on the Bhagavatam. And I was amazed because I would start to pick out these lines from the purports, a few things from the verses that I remember having struck such a deep chord in me in those days. So I'm going to kind of do a little review of what you have been reading, but I'm picking out the kind of the pearls that exist in these previous verses and purports. A self-surrendered devotee of the Lord is called a Narayana Parayana. And the Narayana Parayana in all circumstances remembers Narayan or Krishna. It's essential, Prabhupada says. And of course, Maharaj Parikshit was such a pure devotee. And when we think about royalty, monarchy, we think, well, after Kali started, the age of Kali, kings were not so pious. They were desirous of territories. Even Krishna had to come and conquer various other kingdoms. It was only after the beginning of Kali Yuga that the king or the royalty began to develop material aspects to their reign. We see even in the monarchy in England today, there's this idea, this hope that they will set the proper example and protect the citizens. Of course, it's not possible in the politics of today, but still we see a tremendous sentimentalism based on an actual philosophy that kingdoms provided the greatest shelter for its inhabitants. Anyway, in this case, we had Maharaj Parikshit, who was the last of the personalities who, in the Dwapara Yuga, who then gave way to the lesser monarchs of the Kali Yuga. And under this beginning influence of Kali, Maharaj Parikshit took this curse as a perfect monarch. He took it to be sent by Krishna. And he was already remembering, if you recall the beginning of these chapters, that Krishna had saved him when he was in the womb of his mother. So he knew that if he were to be killed by the bite of a snake, this was also going to be Krishna's arrangement. You know, some devotees are fond of saying, that's Krishna's arrangement, Prabhu, it's Krishna's arrangement. No, Prabhu, it's your mistake, it's your unintelligence, it's your this, it's your that. But ultimately, they're right. Everything is Krishna's arrangement, even since we are subject to Krishna as the source of all memory and forgetfulness. Everything that happens to us is by Krishna's hand. And this is the realm of the Narayana Parayana. So, you know, even in the 9th canto, when the story of King Yayati is being told, there's a whole description of how a sadhu accepts, I think it was King Yayati, accepts unfavorable circumstances as the will of the Lord and doesn't really do much to try to reverse it. This is the nature of a sadhu. So anything sent by Krishna is a blessing. Boy, that I'll tell you, I've been tested so many times in my 51 years as a devotee or aspiring to be a devotee with the challenge of, why is Krishna making it so difficult? Or why did this happen? I've been serving so much. I've been chanting. So, you know, you fall into this illusion that everything that happens is not by the will of the Lord. But Maharaj Parikshit was never bewildered. And that's the sign of a pure devotee. So, you know, in that sense, Maharaj Parikshit was able to receive that mercy of Sukadeva Goswami. And it's very easy to know Krishna by the mercy of a liberated devotee like Sukadeva Goswami. And it's stated, as I began reading, it stated that there are many, Prabhupada states in the purport, there are many scholars who interpret Goloka Vrindavan in different ways. But by the grace of a spiritual master like Sukadeva Goswami, just replace Srila Prabhupada for Sukadeva Goswami, because that's what we got, and whom the king gave himself up as a most humble disciple, one is then able to understand the position of the Lord. It is absolutely necessary to have the association of a pure devotee. And not only will you understand the nature of the position of the Lord, but you'll understand the abode, the transcendental paraphernalia, knowing all that, one can approach the Dham. And the king was confident of his ultimate destination. So he could leave aside everything material, even his own body, without any difficulty. And these are all signs of a person who's on the highest, most transcendental platform. If you remember in the Bhagavad Gita, it stated, Param Drishta Nivartate. One can give up all connection with material attachment when you are able to see Param, the superior nature of things. So a pure devotee is necessary. And this whole pastime put King Parikshit in front of the pure devotee Sukadeva Goswami. Now, the disturbing element, like the personality of Kali, will always try to extend their nefarious activities. And it is the duty of the state to check those activities by every means possible. We just had an enormous upset in ISKCON, another one. These are all opportunities to remember Krishna, by the way. And that's the child abuse, sexual child abuse, and pastoral abuse issue that just hit like a tsunami in Mayapur. And we can, analyze it and criticize it, of course. But it is the duty of the leadership to check this kind of activity of Kali by all means. That's what Prabhupada says in one of these purports leading up to the one that we have today. So it's very relevant to what's going on in our present. All that we read in the Bhagavatam is not just, past or just a little philosophy. It's applicable. And we have to understand that it's necessary to have a society with qualified Rajarsis who will protect those, particularly the most vulnerable. A society is measured by whether or not it can protect the aged, the infirmed, and the children, and the women. The degree to which it can protect them is a degree to which it is a good governance. So that's also there for us. And we learned that in the pastime of King Pariksit. Now, Prabhupada says in another commentary in this various purports leading up to this verse that if there is an arrangement for the constant chanting of the holy names, then there's no chance for the personality of Kali to enter. And that is, I'm quoting Prabhupada, that is the technique for driving away the personality of Kali from this world. So you may ask, why do things keep getting worse? It appears that it's getting worse. And it's a very relevant question. So, can you answer that to yourself? We're going to keep that question in abeyance for the questions at the end. Since we are promoting the solution, the elixir, the antidote to Kali, then why are things getting worse? Let's keep that as a question as we pursue this wonderful consecutive education that Prabhupada's giving us in this 18th chapter. Now, there's some great advantages of the age of Kali, Prabhupada says. And Maharaj Pariksit, he took advantage of those advantages. Of course, it was just beginning with this pastime with him and this curse, but he didn't think ill of the age of Kali. True to how all Vaishnavas can feel, should feel, I hate to use the word should, can feel with realization about the age of Kali. It's a perfect opportunity to purify oneself. All the bad things that happen to us. I remember I met when they were opening up a temple in, of all places, Sin City, Las Vegas, Nevada. Yep, we have a beautiful Vedic temple there. Can you believe it? Only because of the sincerity of a very, very few devotees there. They wanted to spread the mercy in Sin City. And I met a devotee, an artist, godbrother of mine, hadn't seen him in a long time, Charahasa. He'd painted the ceiling of the LA temple and many paintings. And he was in a wheelchair. I looked at him. I hadn't seen him some years. Charahasa, what happened? He said, I got a stroke. paralyzed. Half of his body was paralyzed. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to hear that. Cringing. I was just cringing within myself. And he said, no, it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I looked at him and I realized this is an advanced devotee. This is someone who really sees Krishna everywhere and sees that even in this age of Kali, when we're suffering untold types of diseases and afflictions, he maintains his understanding of Krishna as the doer in everything that happens in devotee, and that it's all good. It's just almost impossible for someone on my level of realization to appreciate, to get there, but I can appreciate it. And maybe by appreciating it, it's a step toward getting there. So Prabhupada says in one of his purports, prior to this one, in this chapter, he said, it will not be possible to bring about a saner condition in society unless we are prepared to accept the modes of action adopted by Maharaj Parikshit. The propagation of the devotional service of the Lord to the common man. That's Bhakti Yoga. And that's using the principle of Yukta Vairagya, taking whatever you have and dovetailing it into the service of the Lord. This was such a strong message in this first canto that it drove all of us to say, what do I got? What can I give? What talents did Krishna give me? They're his talents. How can I dovetail them? How can I advance? In 3 or 4 years, we figured we would be pure devotees. That was just reading this first canto, we were convinced of it. Now, there's something that repeats itself over and over again in these commentaries, the bhashyas that Prabhupada gives on these verses. And it comes from this verse that's there. The value of a moment's association with a devotee of the Lord cannot even be compared to the attainment of heavenly planets or liberation from matter, what to speak of worldly benedictions in the form of material prosperity, which are for those who are meant for death. The personality of Godhead is the exclusive shelter for all living beings, and his transcendental attributes cannot even be measured by such masters of mystic powers as Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. Can anyone who is expert in relishing nectar ever be fully satiated by hearing topics about him? Prabhupada establishes, not Prabhupada, actually Sukadev Goswami is actually establishing this principle here to Maharaj Parikshit. And Prabhupada in the purport quotes this Amanate Yogena Nante Satchinanda Chid Atmani Itarama Padena So Param Prama Bideyate. The mystics derive unlimited transcendental pleasures from the absolute truth. Remember in the beginning I said we have attention spans about 30 minutes? Well, the mystics derive unlimited. They sat there for 7 days, wrapped in attention when Sukadev Goswami was speaking. They didn't have to get up. They were just present. The mystics derive unlimited transcendental pleasures from the absolute truth, and therefore the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is also known as Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. He's the Rama is the pleasure potency of Krishna. It's not Lord Ram. It's pleasure potency. So many of you may not recall, but it's good to remember that Sukadev, that speaker himself, was an impersonalist in the beginning. You can read about that in the second canto. Then later on, he was attracted by the transcendental pastimes of the Lord and became a devotee. So that's renders hope for all of us, that even this pure devotee of Krishna was himself lost in the illusion and the maya of self-realization and personalism. Self-realization is just part of the journey. Bhakti is the complete journey. And that most people have no idea about. And we have to teach them because it's our duty. Give them the taste for which they're always anxious. So, gosh, it's already 40 minutes in. How time flies, and I'm over my limit, but I'm going to continue a little longer. I hope that's okay with you. Prabhupada says, there are many instances in the transcendental histories of the world of an impersonalist who has later become a devotee. But a devotee has never become an impersonalist. Now that's a little challenging because Karandar was Prabhupada's son. Actually, Prabhupada thought of him as a son. Such a nice man, temple president, GBC man, one of the first. But he became a Buddhist eventually. So how do we understand that? How do we understand that? Here's a statement Prabhupada gives that a devotee has never become an impersonalist. Well, it's actually quite easy. Because what is a devotee? A devotee is someone who has attained that transcendental platform. We are aspiring devotees. We're not there yet. And therefore, we're subject to the marginal energy. As jivas, we're part of the marginal energy. And as such, we can fall down. But once one is situated fully on the transcendental platform, there is no fall down. You may not know it, but remember it. You may have heard it. You may not remember it, that Sutta Goswami didn't even take birth in a Brahmin family. He was in a mixed caste, and it was a somewhat uncultured or low family considered at the time. But because of his higher association with Sukadev Goswami and other great rishis of Naimisharanya, Prabhupada said the disqualification of his birth was washed off. So what does that say to us? Stay close to Srila Prabhupada, hearing, reading. Reading is hearing, because you're hearing it in your mind. And following his instructions. And Lord Chaitanya followed this principle in pursuance of his Vedic usages by his association with many lowborn or people who are disqualified by janma, by birth. They became elevated to the position of acharyas, Rupa, Sanatan, so many. And Lord Chaitanya's pastime is Patita Pavan, to pick up the most fallen. Otherwise, none of us would be here. We get the special mercy. Now, a pure devotee of the Lord doesn't commit any offense while chanting. But Prabhupada says, and it's really, what should I say? It's really soothing. It's a relief to know, because we can, but to chant offenselessly is no small feat. But Prabhupada says to chant the holy name under the direction of a pure devotee, under the direction of a pure devotee, is offenseless chanting. And when we read that in this first canto, we went, I'm in, I'm all in. Because even if I'm doing fly chanting, that's when you're chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, or you're doing dive bomber chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. However, still, because you're doing it under the direction of the pure devotee, it's considered offenseless chanting. Why? Because you're doing your best. You're trying your hardest. Yes, you're tired. Yes, you're distracted. But because you're sincerely trying, with your intelligence, with your buddhi, Prabhupada always says sincerity and intelligence. Usually he uses those two together. He said, when you're doing it under the direction of a pure devotee, it's offenseless chanting. So don't let anybody discourage you from your chanting. Oh, Prabhu, that's not good chanting. Oh, you can't drive while you chant. Oh, you can't chant on a clicker. Oh, you can't chant in the bathroom. No, there's no hard and fast rules for chanting. Chant everywhere, at any time, any place, any circumstance. Because you're doing this chanting under the direction of a pure devotee. And therefore, somehow or another, it's considered by the Supreme Lord himself as offenseless chanting. Doesn't mean you don't try to improve your chanting or try. I was just at a japa retreat in Govardhan some weeks ago, and I could understand the difference between my distracted chanting and some really significant focused chanting. But nevertheless, when I get back into my busy life and I have to fit my rounds in, by God, I'm going to fit them in one way or the other, because Prabhupada says chant 16 rounds a day and you will go home back to Godhead. Oh, I got so much more to say, but let me see if I can finish up with my notes here. Okay. There's something else that is mentioned in these verses that might have just gone under the radar when you're reading every day, because it's hard to remember what you read the day before. It's why we have to be so regular. Prabhupada says repentance comes in the mind of a good soul. I love this term, good soul. You know, of course, all souls are good, but I guess a good soul is one that's been cleansed to some degree. As soon as he commits something wrong. Now, in ISKCON, often we find that repentance is a long time in coming. So when we're looking at the actions of King Pariksit, or even when Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur or Srila Jiva Goswami, they don't believe that the action of the king was due to his past misdeeds, whether it was or whether it wasn't. They don't believe it. They just think that this arrangement was made by the Lord just to call the king back home, back to Godhead. And this plan was that the so-called misdeed, that the king could be cursed by an inexperienced Brahmin infected by the influence of Kali, was so that that the king could leave his hearth and home for good. So when people perform misdeeds, and we just had a disastrous example of of consistent misdeeds that went on in Mayapur, we still don't know what is this plan of the Lord for everybody. You know, we can blame people. Such a horrible person did such horrible things. That's true. It's all true. But there's another level to it, that we don't know the plan of the Lord for everybody. There are some devotees that left devotional service for 30 years and came back and saved temples for us that were being taken away. They went off and learned how to be a lawyer somewhere, came back and did service that would be impossible to have been rendered otherwise. We just don't know. And I think I would like to invite you, all of you who are listening, to a club that I recently formed. It's an association, really. There's no fee, and it's very easy to join. And the result is that you gain a lot of humility. And the name of the club is it's just 3 words, I Don't Know Club. You join the club just by when someone asks you a question that you don't know the answer to. Maybe you might have a guess or a speculation, but you really don't know. You just say, I don't know. And then you're a member of the I Don't Know Club. And this club is growing, even though in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, Hare Krishnas were people known as the people with all the answers. We still have all the transcendental answers, but in terms of philosophy, but there's a lot of things we don't know. We've learned that we don't know. And Srila Prabhupada, when he was here, we could always just go to him and ask him, yay or nay, up or down. But these days, every senior Vaishnav's got a little different take on the same thing. And that's true throughout Vaishnav history. All the Charyas, they all have their bhasyas, a little bit different takes on this or that. But the essential things are true. There are a lot of things that are not essential, which we just don't know about. And so I invite you all, at the end of my little talk here, to consider joining the I Don't Know Club. Maybe I'll use the I don't know phrase today when you ask some questions. But really, it brings about a great feeling of humility. I remember when one devotee was asking Prabhupada many questions about Radharani. And Prabhupada just stopped finally. He said, there are some things that Krishna just keeps secret. So similarly, there are some things maybe we're just not meant to understand, but just to accept. That acceptance in many ways is the answer to all of our problems. So I will end with that, with this great lesson of King Pariksit, this wonderful, most fantastic 18th chapter, the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, just one of the great, most wonderful reads. I hearken back to it. When I'm reading the 5th canto, it's much more difficult. You're supposed to have progressed, but I'll go back and read the 1st canto and realize that this is where I found Krishna consciousness. This is where I turned on to Krishna. This is where it just exploded in my heart. And I hope that you have a similar experience with it, so that it'll always remain special to you. There's just so much here in this that I could go into, but I'll stop here and ask for any questions. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. His Grace NRSIMHANANDA Prabhu. This is very inspiring and very invigorating Srimad Bhagavatam class. And we would have loved to hear more and more, but you paused here for Q&A. So at this point, dear devotees, if anyone has a question, please, you may indicate by using the hand emoji or using your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to ask your question. Ishwara Prabhu, please unmute.
Okay. Hare Krishna Prabhu, this is your servant, Ishwara.
Hey, Ishwara, Hare Krishna. Accept my
Hare
obeisance.
Krishna.
Nice to see you.
Obeisances. Welcome to Africa.
Thank you. It's good to be here. It's good to be amongst the African devotees. I look forward to visiting someday.
Actually, I am in Vrindavan, so kind of cool now. It's nice hearing from you. I'm in Vrindavan. So,
No, you're in Africa, just like I am right now.
yeah.
You know, none of that was coming through these earphones. I was hearing it from the monitor finally. I don't know what happened. Okay, whatever.
We were hoping to see you.
Well, I'm here, trying to be.
Uh,
And all of you are so
Okay.
kind to show up to listen to all my speculations.
It's wonderful to hear.
I see that Sriman Varaha Acharya, what a name. Sriman Varaha Acharya has a question.
Yes, Shumara Prabhu, please unmute and ask your question.
Jai, my obeisance is NRSIMHANANDA Prabhu. It's the 7th year, maybe you still remember me. Yeah, I was fortunate to be engaged in your service to translate Prabhupada videos into French when I came to Togo 2003. And when I met you in Mayapur, I also met you also with Prabhu Ishwara. So anyway, thank you for being here. And thank you for the wonderful class, many realizations. You raised a question in your class, and I want you to answer that question because we've had that question being asked several times. Now I would like to hear your answer on that point. Why is it that despite the technique given for stopping Kali Yuga, and we're doing that, we're supposed to be doing that, and it's still increasing? I would like to hear your realization on that. That's you raised the question already. Thank you, Prabhu.
There was a lot of wind.
Can you repeat the question because you were breaking up?
All right. Well, I'm on traffic, so you can expect breaking. Well, I said that Prabhu, you raised the question. You raised the question in your.
I raised the question. Which question?
Right. The technique for stopping. The technique for stopping.
Oh, right. Okay, I got it. Okay. The technique for stopping
we have had this question being asked several times, and we would like to hear your realization about this.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I got it. I understand. Let me repeat the question. I raised the question. Well, since the holy name is supposed to mitigate the effects of Kali, why are things getting worse and not getting better since we're spreading the holy name all over the world? Is that correct, Rahab?
Yes.
All right, Prabhu?
Yeah, that was his question.
Yes. Okay. Well, that's easy. That's easy. Because actually, we may be doing that. It could be far worse today. As you remember, Prabhupada had said that World War III was going to start between India and Pakistan. And, when they started fighting, we would know World War III was going to take off. And, we think that Kali Yuga has progressed at such a rapid pace, but we don't know how much more rapid it would have progressed without the holy name being chanted in towns and villages all over the planet. So I guess what I'm saying is that if you were accepting this philosophy, you would have to agree that the holy name has mitigated the progression of the age of Kali. The mere fact that human civilization still is going on perhaps is a manifestation of the fact that things are not as bad as they could have been without Srila Prabhupada having and Lord Chaitanya having brought this movement into the international world. But for the grace of God, we can also say, but I don't know. I don't know exactly. I can't say exactly because I am not the supreme person of God. I'm not omniscient. I only know the philosophy. And if that's what the philosophy is, then that's how I accept it. that things will be much worse without the chanting of the holy names. And I hope that satisfies you.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the answer. Anyone else with a question? Please
Okay,
say-
let's look. We have not very many people here. We got, what about Yashoda Devi? Does she have a question? Yashoda Devi, you got a question?
No, Prabhu, thank you for the class.
Nothing?
Thank you
You
so
got
much.
nothing? No questions? Come on.
I have a question though, but I will.
Hold on. I'm hitting
Yes,
up
please,
Yashoda
go.
Devi here. Come on,
Okay.
Yashoda Devi. Come up with one question. What do you got?
What I got is I just want to thank you for the class.
Okay,
That's
I have
all
a question. I have a question for you. What can you do to help yourself be more motivated to chant more with more concentration and to spread Krishna consciousness? What can you do personally?
What I can do to motivate myself is association. When I associate with devotees and I listen to them, always motivate me to chant my rounds and also listen more to classes.
I have to say, Yashoda, you have given the perfect answer, because everything is in Sangha, everything is in good association. That's true in the material world and certainly true in the spiritual world. You have absolutely gotten 100% on the exam. Congratulations. A+ to you. Excellent. Excellent.
Thank you for your kindness.
Okay, what about Hari Chakra Prabhu? Where's your question, Hari Chakra? You've been listening to the class or not?
Yeah, I came late.
Yeah, okay. How late?
I came late. I think when I joined, I think it was about 10 minutes before you round up.
Okay, in that 10 minutes of class,
Mhm.
what question do you have about anything? What came up for you? What was like who was this guy to speak, or is that true what he said? What, anything at all?
Yeah, maybe the question I'll ask is I heard you talk about how we should see that whatever happens has mostly got some divine arrangement. Like you were even explaining how Parishit, how Maharaj Parishit, whatever he did, the acharyas are saying that he did nothing wrong, and that Krishna was it was a divine arrangement to get him to go back home, back to Godhead. So in that sense, then my question is, then does that mean that if any devotee is doing anything, we should just see, you should just try to see it that it's a divine arrangement, so we don't even need to do some correction if even there needs to be, that devotee needs to be corrected or something? Does that mean we should just see that, oh, this is a divine arrangement that this devotee had done this thing, so we should just let it go and see what Krishna does?
That's an excellent question, Hari Chakra Prabhu. And I would like to offer a possible answer. Let's see if it satisfies you. When Krishna does one thing, he does something that is, what's that phrase? Purposes served, many purposes are served, right? Many purposes are served. So when someone's activities appear to be difficult or un-Krishna conscious, and and we are in the position to maybe rectify it, then many purposes are served by Krishna's arrangement. We get the opportunity to be of service to try to rectify it. That's also part of Krishna's arrangement. So you tell me, Hare Chakra, what's not Krishna's arrangement?
Yeah, I know everything is Krishna's arrangement, but it's like if let me take for instance, like
Okay.
I'm walking in town, I see somebody, the person asks me for money to buy food. I can see that the person is really hungry and the person is in a very precarious condition. Then I know deep within me that this person is suffering because of his karma. It's a divine arrangement. He has done something and he has to be in this situation. But at the same time, I should also be thinking that it is also part of his karma that I come in contact with him so that I can also fulfill that portion of his karma by rendering some little service to him. So that's why in this way, I'm thinking that if somebody is doing something bad, then even though it's a divine arrangement that that person is doing that thing, that bad thing, but it's also divine arrangement that I come in contact with him and make sure I correct him so that will help him to get elevation. But usually what I'm hearing is that if I correct him, then it's like I'm trying to find fault. I'm trying to criticize a devotee. So that is the portion I don't understand.
Got it. Wonderful. Very good realizations. And that's very simple. And it's a very simple thing to answer because those people who are saying to you, well, your question is what you don't understand is, say again what you don't understand. Repeat that again.
He was saying that what he does not understand is, even though someone is suffering or going through whatever, which is a divine arrangement, but is it not also equally a divine arrangement that somebody with a better knowledge or higher knowledge comes in contact to help?
Oh, and corrects him.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, no, he understood. Hari, didn't you say that you understood that both things were part of the divine plan?
Yeah, I said exactly so. But what I said also was that if I take it on the other side, that a devotee is doing something, and that thing seems to be a bad thing that the devotee is doing. So if I consider it to be a divine arrangement that devotee performed that activity at that material moment, and I also consider it that it's also a divine arrangement that I should be there at that moment to be able to put him right, to correct that devotee for his upliftment. Now, in trying to correct that devotee, now what I'm hearing other people say is that the effort that I'm making to correct that devotee, then it means I'm seeing fault with the devotee. I'm trying to criticize the devotee. So that is where my confusion is. So if I come into such situation, does that mean I should not fulfill my part of the devotees of the divine arrangement by putting the devotee right, by correcting him to make sure that things are happening properly? So that is my question. That is where I say my confusion is. Why are people saying that me trying to correct the person means that I'm criticizing the person?
Okay, so let's go back to Bhagavad Gita. Let's see if Arjuna had that same problem. He could care. He saw that there was no winning on either side. You know, whether he got involved or not, Krishna had made a plan, and that plan was going to be fulfilled. And he wanted to go to the forest and just, stay out of it. And Krishna, of course, convinces him, no, it's your duty to fight, right? And you won't get any sin, no pop from fighting. And why should I fight? Arjuna's at, why should I? And the ultimate answer is, because I asked you to. That's why. It has nothing to do with your karma, you're criticizing somebody. It's because it satisfies me. So similarly, Prabhupada's asked us, go out and help people become Hare Krishna devotees. Help them understand Krishna. They may not, people may see us as critical of their Christian or Muslim religion or whatever, or their impersonal point of view or whatever. But we just go about our duty, chanting the holy name, giving prasadam, and offering philosophy. Like it or don't like it. It's none of our business whether people like it or don't like it, think we're criticizing, think we're trying to help. And I'll give you the perfect example of this. When Bhaktisiddhanta was was leading his disciples on a japa walk in Puri, they passed some lepers, and these lepers were begging for some bakshish, and all the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta just walked by with their hands in their pockets or in their bead bags, didn't give them anything. So Bhaktisiddhanta stops them. Why you didn't give the lepers anything? And, they answer, well, there's charity in the mode of ignorance, charity in the mode of passion, charity in the mode of goodness. And, giving charity in this way simply binds us to the material world. And they thought they gave the perfect answer, philosophical answer. But Bhaktisiddhanta bested them. He said, who's their father? Well, Krishna's their father. Who's your father? Well, Krishna's our father. What does that make you? Brothers and sisters. And if you don't give to your brother or your sister, what happens to your heart? It becomes hard. And if your heart becomes hard, why Krishna wants to stay there? You see, he took it to a whole nother level. So that's the level of bhakti. Bhakti is not dependent on Shastra. All these people in India can't be women gurus because of this Shastra, that Shastra. Bhakti is independent of Shastra. And Prabhupada came and his mood was to bring bhakti to everybody. And Shastra was a servant of that. Yes, he relies on Shastra for this and that, but it wasn't a limiting factor for Prabhupada. So I know this is somewhat controversial, but try to digest this. That the issue is, and what you're looking at, when people thinking of yourself, oh, I make so aparad. What does aparad really mean? Against. Radha, devotion. Radha is the elixir of devotion. It's against devotion. It's not some offense, oh, you hurt my feelings. That's not an aparad. It's something that is in the way of bhakti. So anything you can do to increase bhakti, that's what Krishna wants. That's what you look at. Not the so-called material opinions of others about what is offensive, not offensive, what is critical, not critical. That's all in the realm of emotion and feeling. All part of the mind. But you're above that. Well, you are, and we're striving to realize that we are. So we have to act this way. So the way you're acting, no matter what people say, how critical they become, if it's on the platform of bhakti, then you're satisfying Krishna. And then it's all good. It's transcendental. Sudasattva. It is transcendental goodness. Does that satisfy you?
Yeah, very much. Thank you very much. It clears my doubt now.
What is that saying in Bhagavad Gita? Doubts must be slain with the torchlight of knowledge. Torch of knowledge, right?
Yeah.
How have these impurities come upon you? Krishna says to Arjuna. What a thing to say. God saying, you're impure. How have these impurities? You're sitting there on the chariot, kind of go, oh, what impurities? I'm just trying to be a good person. Meanwhile, you get a half an hour of lecturing from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not a bad exchange, I would say.
Yeah.
All right, we
All
had
right.
a hand up. We had a hand up. It went down. Mitravinda, come on.
Mitravinda, please unmute. Mitravinda Devi.
Come on, that big smiling face. Got to have something good to say from that face.
She always does. Please unmute.
There she is. She's in blue today. She's in fashionable blue today.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. I thought you looked so familiar, and I realize now it's because I believe you came to 9th Street in Washington, D.C. in the 90s. And I remember specifically ITV, and that inspired the project for my Guru Maharaj Bhakti Swami, where his different videos and programs were put on public access cable TV. Based on your project. But my question, Prabhu, is it regards the aspect of course, everything is relatable that we should be doing to bhakti. However, if we are hurting each other because Krishna, we're part and parcel of Krishna, is that not aparad also? That because they're
what do you mean by what do you mean by hurting?
Anything from physically assaulting to refusing to allow someone to do service, to not giving prashad. There's so many ways that we can serve each other as Vaishnavas. So, but at the same time, there's so many ways in the world that people who are not on the path of bhakti are actually kind to each other. And if we see things in our communities that don't relate to the beauty, the kindness, the love, the caring, right? Empathy, compassion, and education, as aspiring devotees. If we don't see that in our communities, or we see anything that's other than that, that's not loving, is that not aparad also? And how can we better deal with it in a way that will relate to our society growing, flourishing, and being a divine representation of Radha and Krishna's mercy?
That's an excellent question. I've just been through this with my Sabha members. I'm on the Sabha, the Spiritual Advisory Bhagavad Assembly. And I was chairman for 4 years, and everyone loved me as the chairman and everything. And now that I'm not the chair, I still speak my mind very well, I would say uncensored. I speak kind of, I like to speak very, what's the word? Very
Candid.
unvarnished. I don't like to varnish the truth. There are those devotees that like to have everything prefaced, my dear, respected, honorable, grace, Vaishnav, so-and-so. I highly respect what you've said. You've made some really brilliant points and valiant attempts to solve this problem. Please forgive me in my humble way. I would like to suggest, it just goes on, just tell me what you want to say. I want it. Just give it to me. I can handle it. It's just words. I think we've suffered in ISKCON from a disease of not speaking frankly with one another out of fear, false evidence appearing real, fear that the slightest word is going to wither or perhaps heal. But in most cases, we're tiptoeing around we've become part of the woke movement. I want to hear the truth. Prabhupada told us the truth. That's what I love about Prabhupada. He just nailed it. He hammered it. And I can't reconcile myself not having honest, straightforward conversations with people. I think the fact that we have danced around just speaking our minds without fear of offense has hurt our movement so much that we have allowed a lot of things to go on that never should have transpired, because we were afraid. What if I say something that's going to hurt somebody's feelings? So I think that there's two there's what you're saying. Of course, one's not supposed to agitate the minds of anybody else. But Prabhupada agitated a lot of minds, let me tell you. You know, we saw it in people. They didn't like what Prabhupada had to say, and Prabhupada didn't back down. One time Prabhupada was sitting on a Vyasasan, and it was in a conference, and there were other speakers, and then this impersonalist was next, and Prabhupada was supposed to get off the Vyasasan. He wouldn't get off. And so they had to bring a chair for the other speaker, and the speaker started speaking. It was all in Hindi. And he went on for about a half an hour, and Prabhupada then jumped off and said, "That's enough. You know, this conference is over." You know, he wouldn't get off the seat to give it to some personals, and they cut the guy off. So, you know, and Prabhupada, of course, said, "I'm an old man. I can say like that. You cannot." But now I'm an old man. Now I can, you know, now I can say a little more, and I see how much this kind of, well, we can't say anything that's going to hurt anybody else, that we perceive will hurt anybody else. Certainly we shouldn't be motivated to say things that are going to provoke other people. That's there. At the same time, we cannot just walk away from speaking our truth to others. My sister used to tell me, she says, "David, you use the truth like a weapon." And it's true, you know. To her, my truth about the material world was very much a weapon, because she's into family, she's into everyone feel good, this and that. But when you read Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj's book, Spiritual Warrior, there's a lot of things in there that could agitate people. It could. He doesn't stay away from speaking the truth. And, you know, I think that we've gone way too far to the other end. I think we need to call a spade, be direct with each other, and not be afraid of just speaking ourselves. Now, of course, I had to back up a little bit, because this group of the Sabha was thinking that I was just too blunt. So now I've been saying, "My dear, respect," you know, I kind of go overboard in the other direction. So I think there's a balance, but I don't think we should be afraid of telling people. I think, Jai Pataka Maharaj, I think I hold you responsible for what's happening in Mayapur, because the buck stops with you. I don't think there's anything wrong in saying that. It's not an aparad to say that. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. You get what my drift, Mitravinda, Devi Dasi?
Absolutely, Prabhu. I definitely do. And yeah, you hit it in a nutshell, because what I was saying was directly relatable to abusing children and women and cows and elderly, and not having a notion to stand up for, speak about, or you know, inspire or challenge the things that are happening, to the point where we should have 4 generations in all temples, and there should never be a need for anybody to, the temple should be filled. And it's definitely disheartening, and we have to move forward, but at the same time, we have to speak up. Thank you.
I'll give you an example of how I recently spoke out to all the temple presidents and regional secretaries, everybody in India. I happened to be in Juhu in October when they had their meeting. I was asked by Sahadev, the ICC president, to come and address them because of this whole issue of the Vaishnava Diksha Guru thing, and the Vedic, it's not Vedic, it's not Vedic, it's not Vedic. So after their lunch, I attended their lunch. It was catered, nice lunch there at the temple, was catered by some company. And it was my turn to speak finally later in the afternoon. And I said, well, said, everybody like lunch? Oh yeah, a lot of hands. There were 100 people there. Hands were, yeah. I said, those dosas were great, weren't they? We cooked right there in front of you. Get them hot and crisp. Oh, it's very rare to get them like that. Weren't they great? Oh yeah, people, yeah, they're really good. I said, yeah, I saw that the cook didn't have any kunti mala on. I asked him, are you a devotee? He said, no. Oh, really? No. I said, you're not Brahmin? No, I'm just, cooking. So I asked the caterer, I said, are you a Brahmin? He said, no, I just, I have some restaurants in town and I do this catering. I said, oh, really? He said, so, I realized that those doses, they couldn't be offered to Krishna because, they were cooked by a non-Brahmin. And I couldn't help but see everybody there enjoying their doses. But that's not Vedic, is it? But for your tongue, you could care less if it was Vedic or not. And then Basha Ghosh said, no, you're right, it's not Vedic. It's not Vedic. You're right. Everybody yells out. I said, where are you going to draw the line? In some esoteric verse from the, some Purana, and you're going to rely on that or your interpretation of this or that? I said, or you're just going to, kind of go with the flow like Prabhupada did in so many ways and just accept that this part of lunch and it's okay. I said, you're making a mountain out of a molehill. And you're not Vedic. You're not even following the Vedic when it comes to your tongue. So what are we talking about here? And then I went on to say, I agree with you. Most of the GBCs are just old men that need to retire. Let them become emeriti. We need the young blood here. We need youth, energy. That's what we need. I speak out. I said that to the GBCs themselves 5 years ago. I speak out. And in fact, when I was recently approved as one of the GPOC members, that's the Global Property Oversight Committee, the GBC had to approve. I got approved, but one person made a comment. Said, well, I approve, but the Sringananda is kind of a loose cannon. And I took that as a great compliment because I think we need to speak out more. And I think we need to challenge the existing order and to get younger people into positions where these old fogies need to just go off and preach somewhere, for God's sakes. Let other people run this movement. You haven't done such a great job. Let others do it. They don't need to, what do you got a GBC college for? They're all graduating from GBC college. Where are they going to go? You want to be there till you die. You can still be a GBC emeriti, so you can still be a GBC, but you won't have voting power. That's all. But nobody's resigning, despite all of this stuff. We just need more plain speaking. People who are brave enough to speak out and not worry about what other people think of them. Because that's the material world. It's all about looking good. And I don't really care at this age whether I look good or I don't look good. I just want to have integrity. And I'd like to see Krishna consciousness expand. And I'd like to see the young people take over this movement like we were young and expanded it like anything. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Prabhuji. I'm here laughing. I cannot control myself. I'm sorry, but I am enjoying the class. I'm enjoying your responses. And this is just a testament to the fact that usually when the Guru gives us diksha and gives us names, they give us names that are very much in connection to who we really are. You are NRSIMHANANDA. So we all know what Lord Nrsimhadev came out to do. He comes to face the facts, to give protection to the devotees. And that's exactly what you're doing. I can't just thank you enough because there's been, for the most part, it's with good intention that people advise people, devotees, to be careful what they say and how they say it because it could be leading to offenses. But most oftentimes than not, people actually use it as a tool to silence people from speaking whatever nonsense somebody may be doing. And if we all become silent over what is an obvious contradiction to our Siddhanta, then how are we building Srila Prabhupada's organization? We all know how much Srila Prabhupada struggled to build this organization. And if we see clearly something being done wrongly, and we all become silent for fear of committing offenses, then how are we helping the organization grow? And Srila Prabhupada is not different from ISKCON. And so the way we treat Srila Prabhupada should be the same way we treat ISKCON. So thank you so much for the clarification. And I hope devotees here are learning, and whoever is listening or would listen to this class is also going to learn so much from this. Ishara Prabhu said something in the chat room, which I think is really nice for me to read out for devotees to know a little bit more about our speaker today. And that is, Ishara Prabhu is saying that NRSIMHANANDA Prabhu is the ITV director, that is the ISKCON television director. He made possible all the Srila Prabhupada video archives we have today. And he's saying Ishwara Prabhu had the honor to work with Prabhuji over the years in distributing Srila Prabhupada's videos. So on this account, Prabhuji, we all have so much indebtedness to you because Srila Prabhupada's videos are so much inspiring. They are ever fresh. They are just like they just happened today. So we can't thank you enough. And with that, we go to Shriman Varaha Prabhu. Please, you may.
No, I have something. I'd just like to say something before.
Okay, please go ahead. Please do.
Just a little pastime. I think you'll find, especially this African yatra, will find interesting. I joined in 1971, and then I went to Chicago. Then I went to New Vrindavan, then New York, then back to Chicago, and then Los Angeles, and then I came back to Chicago. My mother lived in a high-rise building with a was upscale, and the elevators in those days, they had elevator operators, and generally in Chicago, those elevator operators were black. So there was this one guy, Napoleon, and he had known me because prior to becoming a devotee, I'd come to that building numerous times. So I came back from, he hadn't seen me since I'd become a devotee. So I came back from Los Angeles, came to the building, the elevator, walked into the elevator, and Napoleon was operating it, and he looked at me. Shaved head, skinny, robes, the whole thing. He said, "David, is that you, David?" I said, "Yeah, Napoleon, it's me." I said, "You know, you take a white boy, you shave his head, and they all look alike." Because there was always this idea, and you know, black people, they all look alike. So I told him, "You take a shower, boy," and they all look alike. Oh my God, he started laughing so loud. And it's so true, you know, in one sense, you know, we're just all this color stuff. It's just, I remember even in college before becoming a devotee, the whole color thing was like, what are these people thinking? I went down to Atlanta and worked in a ghetto to try and get the black community to get better, you know, services from the government and stuff. And I was there in Ebenezer Church when Martin Luther King was speaking. That's how far back I go to my in my roots. And I just never could understand why people made distinctions based on bodily, the bodies that we have. It just never, until finally Prabhupada just brought it all home. And that's when Napoleon and I had this big laugh, and we were closer than ever. So okay.
Thank you so
Raha,
much.
sorry.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much once again, NRSIMHANANDA Prabhu. It's very inspiring hearing you. I just want
Shima,
to.
are you back in the temple that you can turn on your video?
All right, I'm not in the temple yet, but I can turn on. I'm not.
Okay,
I'm not in
please.
traffic.
Well, there he is.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
So I want to draw some lessons from some of the last comments you made about the GBC. Two statements.
Okay, here
you
we
made.
go. Here we go. You ready? You ready for it? Here we go.
Well, one is that they should retire because they haven't done much work. They haven't really done a great job, of building an organization. And the second point is the fact that young blood, youth should take over and do the right thing. So these are good ideas, but my question is, My question is, whatever the old devotees are able to do, what is the certainty that the young ones can do it? And my question is this. This is first point, interrogation. The second one is, we have a system and we have to follow those who are in front of us and what they have achieved. What problem they had, we are also grappling with that problem, unless somebody can tell us how we can do it better. So Prabhupada said, I have created ISKCON to create a Brahmanic society. And the scripture says that it's Kshatriyas that establish, rules, society, everything that make things happen. Krishna chose Arjuna to make things happen, to fight. But our society, we're not creating Kshatriyas, we're only creating Brahmanas. So where people just, have feeble mind when it comes to taking action or fighting. So how can the youth make a difference when we are working within the same Brahmanic frame where people don't have that courage to actually, stamp out things or to make things happen how it should be. So this is where I need your advice. Even if the youth take over today, how can they make anything different because they're working within the same structure and the same system? Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Those questions. First of all, it's very relevant to the verses we're reading because Maharaj Pariksit was trained as a Brahmin despite his Kshatriya nature. So he was trained first as a Brahmin, and then he was engaged in his nature. So even though we're training people to be Brahmins doesn't mean that they're Brahminical by nature. So that's the first point. We do have people who are good at management and they've been trained in temples or in their, you look at someone like, let's take examples for, you look at someone like Devakinand in Singapore, who is a trained lawyer, which is a Kshatriya position, really a fighter, right? But you won't find a more Brahminical devotee than that man. He's like, to me, he's like a pure devotee. He's an amazing person. He's the kind of GBC you want there because he's got all the skills. So that's number one, that Brahminical training does not necessarily only apply to Brahmins. And if you look at other kings who were Brahmins, you could look at the other side. Ravana was also trained as a Brahmin, but he was a king. He was a Rajarsi. So they're not mutually exclusive. Now, how does that fit into this kind of formula of the Varnashram? I'll go to the I don't know club because, you would think that there would be these fine divisions. Apparently they're not. And apparently, I say apparently because I can't say 100%. I can't say to you with 100% accuracy, like I can't be like Bhakti Vikas Swami, who says, you're a Kshatriya, you're a Vaishya, you're a Sudra, you're a Brahmin. Well, the Vaishyas, the Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras cannot be, hold on a second. These people are not taking no for an answer. So I think that this is an evolving understanding. Varnashram is the most difficult, has been the most difficult. In fact, people don't even realize that in 1977, you'll find it in the folio somewhere or in the Vanipedia, Prabhupada said, at least I think you'll find it because I was told this is true, but I haven't looked it up, that actually he said Varnashram is not that important. I mean, that flies in the face of, everybody said, oh, Prabhupada said 50% of his mission is not fulfilled without Varnashram. My personal experience is that Varnashram is not that important. Adhikars, qualities of people are important. But whether those qualities fit into a various category or not in this age of Kali, I think we're just, speculating. We really don't know. Even when they're young children, you really can't figure it out. I don't know anybody who's got a corner on this market other than they philosophically, they make their case philosophically. But in the practical world, and Prabhupada was above all a practical man. If something didn't work, if doing marriages didn't work, okay, I'm not doing that anymore. If GBC for life didn't work, I'm sure Prabhupada would say, okay, because he originally had created it as an elected term every 2 years. I'm sure Prabhupada would have changed it. So, there's a lot of wiggle room in Vaishnavism. Tremendous, much more wiggle room than we imagined. There's a lot more disagreement amongst the acharyas than we know of. The only thing we have to go by, more than what Prabhupada even writes in his book, is how Prabhupada dealt with things. There are those that say the most important thing are his books. They're the law books for 10,000 years. Then there's the lectures. Then there's the letters, the conversations, and then there's the letters. And Prabhupada didn't want his letters distributed, so the letters really don't count. And I take a very different view on that. For me, how Prabhupada acted, how he dealt with things, that's really the essence of preaching. And preaching is the mission of Lord Chaitanya. So for me, I look toward Prabhupada's conversations and his letters for real instruction of how to deal with things. Others will say, well, you're wrong, because you should really, it's not, his books are more important. They're a priority. They take precedence over what he did. And I just don't agree with that. I think it's a holistic thing. You have to look at the whole picture. And it's by Krishna's arrangement. Krishna arranged that even though Prabhupada said, I don't want my letters printed, they got printed. Why did they get printed? Because the GBC was cherry picking out of them, various GBCs, things that supported their agendas. Mm-hmm. And devotees were going, wait, there's stuff there I remember that Prabhupada did that wasn't like that. Mm. So those books got printed by a renegade, Radha Krishna from Mexico. He put the money together and printed those books, and they got leaked out of the archives on purpose, so that we wouldn't be living under a regime that had a means by which they could pick what the truth is. We could decide for ourselves, which I think is Krishna's arrangement, even though it was Prabhupada's wish that they not be published. So all this has to be added up, and you have to add all this up, and you can't kind of miss something. It's a puzzle, and you have to put all the pieces together for yourself. And everybody's going to see a different picture, just like blind men look at an elephant and describe him different ways. And that's why Krishna consciousness is so individual, and everybody who pursues it has their own way of dealing with it. And we have to respect that individuality, because Krishna gives us that very birthright of individuality and that birthright of free will to choose this or that, and not to have some ecclesiastical body telling us that's a qualified guru, that's not a qualified guru. No, they can tell us what are the descriptions of a qualified guru, but don't tell me who I'm going to have a love affair with. I'll figure that out. That's my heart. You have no way of knowing what's in my heart. You're not the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You're 35 conditioned souls trying to figure it out too. And you're not that special, because I became a devotee. I came to Krishna consciousness. I chose to do this austerity and the yajna of chanting and all the rest of it that comes with it. You didn't choose it for me. So it all comes back to you. You are the person who chooses, and don't let anybody take that idea away from you or cover it up, because you're the source of your own Krishna consciousness. That's what needs to be emphasized. And that's why this group of 35 needs to have a big change, because somehow or another like big governments, the last thing you want to hear when you hear a knock on the door and open it up is, "Hi, I'm from the government and we're here to help you." No, you're not here to help me. Get out of my life. "Hi, I'm from the GBC and I'm here to help you." No, you're not here to help me. I know what's good for you.
Sorry about that, Prabhuji.
You can help me at my choosing, but it's always going to be what I choose, not what you tell me. That's the nature of real spiritual life from my point of view. And, you can disagree.
Prabhuji, see, we are very greedy. Those of us here on Hare Krishna Africa, we are very greedy. We would love to have you as long as possible, but we also understand you're speaking from India, right? So,
No, I'm speaking from Los Angeles.
Oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Because I was thinking maybe you are in India, which will be quite late for you. So
No, it's okay, but it's already an hour and 45 minutes, and I'm sure you're bored of me. And
no, Prabhuji, I haven't asked a question yet. I have a question, and I'm sure a couple of devotees have questions also. But
well, I'm waiting for Quadwo to ask the question.
yeah,
He's been sitting there towering over everybody this whole time.
Hey,
okay. So please unmute and ask your question then.
Come on, Quadwo.
Yeah.
Get your hands out of your pockets and ask a
Yes.
question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I actually don't have question. I'm really enjoying your class, and you are empowering us to stand firm on our feet and defend the truth. We are always kind of intimidated by offenses. We all know how dangerous the offenses are and what they can do in terms of hitting our spiritual growth. And so most of the time we are kind of reluctant speaking what is supposed to be spoken because we don't want to offend. But you are defining what is offense, and that is giving us a lot of courage. But my question will be that, yes, we have to be bold. We have to speak out the truth, provided it's going to enhance the development of our Krishna consciousness and to the growth of the movement as a whole. But could you please spell out, when we say offenses, when we say, I have offended somebody, so don't try to offend me. can you make it so specific so that we know that speaking this way is truth and it doesn't attract any karma, any reaction, I mean, negatively. And speaking this way will attract negative karma because that is considered an offense. Can you differentiate the two, please?
I'm not sure. Let's face it. Let's face it. If someone takes offense, right? They're in Maya. Isn't it? If someone takes offense at something you said, they're the ones that are in Maya. Not you. You're just speaking your truth, and someone's taking offense. Why are you taking offense? You're not this body. You're not that mind. Why are you taking offense? Oh, I see. You think you are your mind. You think you are your body. That's why you're taking offense. How can I offend anybody? I can't really offend them because there's nobody to offend. That's just the material nature. It's just the three modes of nature. And it's subtle and gross forms. And you can't offend a non-living being. You can't offend a rock that has no life. That's an ugly rock. You ugly rock. What is a rock? Rock doesn't care because it doesn't have anything. It's not, there's no soul in that rock. It doesn't care. It's just the three modes of nature. Similarly, our bodies and mind are the three modes of nature, subtle and gross. So the whole idea of offense, I think it's been polluted, and nobody should take offense, really, except when they see someone else being offended. Then you have justification to take offense. But for myself, call me what you want. I don't care. Sticks and stones can hurt my bones. Names can never hurt me. I'm the soul. I've got nothing to do with this material world. And I'm just trying to realize that. So if I don't take offense, that helps me realize it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Prabhuji, thank you very, very much for your explanation. But I think, yeah, all what you're saying is correct. I'm not a body. I know I'm a spirit, so I know this body is already dead. It's a walking dead body, and it's not me actually. So why should I bother? But I think Krishna doesn't see it that way. Krishna doesn't see it that way. Krishna see it more than we do see, because when Dhruva's Muni offended Ambarish Maharaj did not react. He only surrendered to Krishna. And Dhruva Muni suffered the reaction of that, even though Ambarish did not react. And I think Jiva Goswami or Sanatan Goswami, one of these Goswamis, they were in meditation when a hunchback happened to be circumambulated Tosi by this story. And Jiva or Sanatan was enjoying the vision of Radha Krishna, happily enjoying and smiling. And so the hunchback thought that, you are smiling because of my deformity. And just by that thought, his meditation broke. And so from the investigation, he got to know that he offended this hunchback unknowingly. Even unknowing offenses can react. The Jiva has nothing to do. He was not laughing at him, but he suffered a reaction. By God, his meditation broke. And so we may do something very painful to someone's heart, the person may not say anything. But does that mean that Krishna is not going to do anything because the person did not react? So I would like you to explain it further, because I think this goes beyond physicals.
Well, again, that does conform to the idea that we don't take offense for ourselves, but we do take offense when a devotee is offended, another devotee is offended. So Krishna is taking that position, that he's giving some reaction for someone for their apparent offense. Fortunately, in this age, thoughts don't matter, so we don't have to worry about what's, I hate you, I hate you. It's as long as it stays in our mind, it's there's no reaction for it. That's actually stated in, I think, one of the purports of this particular chapter. But in terms of the mechanics of why there would be a reaction for an inadvertent offense, I will surrender to my default position of I do not know. I don't know. It makes no sense to me why someone will be suffering for an inadvertent offense. It just makes no sense to me. And therefore, I put that on the shelf of I don't know. I don't reject it, but I don't accept it. Because it doesn't add up to me why that would be that way. Why would God care if I don't act on if I by someone interpreted the way I look as a criticism, and then I would get a reaction for that? Why would God do that to me? That doesn't work for me. So I just kind of, okay, that part of the story doesn't work. I'm putting it over there. Because I don't know. Because it makes no sense spiritually to me. Maybe someday it will, but if it doesn't stop my faith. I know there are a lot of things that make no sense, in terms of how the Bhakti Lakta Bij is affected. It doesn't quite make sense. Studies of, when you read these histories of the various demigods and Shiva and Brahma, and why Brahma would lose faith in Krishna and then have to come and apologize. It makes no sense. He's the most intelligent person in the universe, but it's a pastime, some kind of a pastime. Makes no logical sense, but there it is. So I accept it. So similarly, I have to go to my default position, say I don't know.
Yeah, Prabhu, the last question I will ask is very short. If the scripture says there are 10 offenses in a matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord, and the first offense is to blaspheme a devotee who has dedicated his life for the propagation of the holy names of Krishna. In other words, don't blaspheme any devotee. So what does that mean? When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, these principles governing the chanting of the holy names, don't blaspheme a devotee. What is the meaning of this blaspheming? To blaspheme somebody. What is the meaning of that?
Well, in the dictionary definition of blaspheme, it's a contemptuous or profane speech or action concerning a sacred entity, God or a sacred entity. It's an irreverent, impious expression in regard to something that's considered inviolable or sacrosanct. So that's the definition of a blaspheme. Are we, when we blaspheme something, it's like an example, material example would be if someone were to criticize the Messiah, then they're blaspheming Allah, and they get issued a fatwa, they're going to be killed by They deserve to be put to death. In the Bible, you'll find a lot of these kinds of statements of, people who are blasphemers or idol worshipers, etc. And there's a lot of black and white, yes or no, you're in, you're out. That was ISKCON in the beginning. We had that mood. You are either in with us living in a temple, or you are a karmi, simply enjoying the fruits of Krishna without, giving back. So we segregated ourselves very much from society. Have we compromised ourselves by becoming members of faith-based organizations, that ecumenical are we backpedaling? Were we more pure in the beginning? Are we less pure now? These are questions for bigger brains. And I'm really glad that you brought these things up, because they're worthy of deep consideration. My feeling about this blaspheming of a devotee who dedicated their lives to propagating the holy name of the Lord is ambivalent. I'm ambivalent about it, because there are examples of people in airports who would harass devotees and later became devotees. What we're dependent upon when we do chant the holy names is chanting for the mercy of Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita, Gadadhar, and Srivas Harigora Bhaktivinoda. That Panchatattva is supposed to protect us, because we are naturally blasphemous. We are naturally offensive in these 10 offenses. But we chant this before we chant our rounds in order to do a workaround, because it's going to protect us from those offenses. So, are we the recipients of this special mercy, knowing that we're naturally offensive? Yes. Otherwise, how we can continue to chant all this time? Are we still making more offenses when we're chanting inattentively? Yes. But are we protected by Lord Chaitanya's mercy? I would say yes. So it's true that one should not, is offensive when they blaspheme the devotee, when they criticize the devotees. At the same time, Prabhupada, when he heard these articles that had very highly critical of ISKCON, when he asked how many times did they mention Krishna, 15 times. Oh, Prabhupada, very good. He tended to see the good side of things. So again, it's spoken in black and white, but it doesn't live. It lives in the grays, and it lives in the mercy. I don't think there's one answer that's going to fit all. I think you have to live a certain amount of your life, in your spiritual life, in the fog of mercy, of kripa, and count on kripa to overcome all these impediments and lack of understanding of everything. I think you ask different devotees, they'll give you different interpretations. I'm sure Shiva Ram Maharaj will go on in some esoteric way about this, blaspheming the devotees, what that means, and bring up all kinds of examples. And for myself, I'm kind of a much more simple fellow, and I just go, yeah, but we got we chant Sri Krishna Chaitanya, so what the hell, I don't have to worry about it. I'm not. It's just too much. This is simple, be like the Israeli army. They keep, keep it simple, stupid. Just keep it simple. If you get too much into it, you're going to get lost. So I see many devotees lost in all this stuff. Then their preaching goes to hell. Just preach. We have gatherings at our house. We keep the preaching very simple. Just like it was in the beginning, when we made a lot of devotees. Let Krishna do the work. Just like Prabhupada said, don't spend so much time distributing the book to convincing someone. Let the book do the preaching. So that's my kind of roundabout, evasive answer, which ends up in I don't know.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Nice to meet you and talk with you.
Hare
Where are you?
Krishna.
Where are you from?
I'm in Ohio, Columbus.
Ohio. You know, I often ask myself, why oh did I leave Ohio? Maybe I'd better go home. The famous song.
Thank you so much. Prabhuji, let Shimala please a second. Prabhu, may I ask you this before I forget? How can one join I don't know? I want to join that group. I don't know group because I never know.
You just have to say, answer a question with an I don't know, and you remember automatically.
The bold, there's a cup.
Okay, I don't know.
Black cup. Wash it for me.
So Shimala Prabhu, please go ahead.
Yes. Thank you very much, Prabhu. I enjoy you. You're very frank, and you kind of lighten up the spirit, because devotees are often boxed into the corner, and they can't express themselves. They can't, they're out of fear and all that stuff. And we preach against communism. We preach against totalitarian society. We preach against, all kind of system gagging people from freedom. And then here we're practically doing the same thing again. So it actually doesn't make sense. So I was back to, I don't know whether it's Bhaktisiddhanta or Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur who said that, spiritual life is about liberty. And once that liberty is taken off, then there's no point about spirituality. So what you're addressing, these are basic truths, which many would not like to hear because it does not fit into the agenda. But again and again, we know and we'll be hearing that religion has been used as a tool to enslave people. And we don't think that we are different because, each Krishna consciousness as an institution is also more or less going to that direction. And unless we are hearing people like you, Prabhupada disciple with a different opinion, so people will not feel free because many actually want to express themselves. And once we lack this freedom of communication or liberty of expression, then everything goes into pieces because people are just being ruled by fear. So I thank you very much for your frank way of speaking. It's not the first time I heard you. I met you in Mayapur. I heard you speaking, and I'm glad that you're here on this forum speaking. So thank you very much. I'm just expressing my gratitude because this way of speaking, quite a few devotees have spoken like this also here before. But in between, people always think that maybe that's their opinion, but you are speaking the absolute truth. And this is the only way people can become free and then actually accept Krishna consciousness and practice it with all their heart. But as long as there is all these, guides, forms of, oppression, people cannot really enjoy that Krishna consciousness the way they want it. So thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. We would like to see you more again on this forum.
Freedom. Okay, looks like Cleopatra has a question. Okay, Davy, that's you.
Loka, you have a question? Please unmute. Is she there? No, maybe she's not there.
Okay, she's saying her mic's not working. Her question is, how much can senior Mataji's that are single in a community expect members in the community to be advocates for themselves in challenging situations? Let me read that again.
Yeah.
How much can senior Mataji's, senior means long time in the movement or old? I'm not sure what you mean.
Yeah, long time in the movement.
Long time in the movement, okay. That are single, okay. Expect members in the community to be advocates for themselves in challenging situations. Let me see if I can mirror that. So what I think you're asking is, because you're single and you've been around for a while in ISKCON, you want
Okay, Prabhuji, I think
other members of the community to be advocates, or for you?
I think what she's trying to say is, being a single mother in a Vaishnav community, if such a person has a situation that requires especially like the old devotees in the community, to come to her aid, and they do not come, what does that say? Or what should the person going through the challenge, what should she do?
I'm just digesting it. What do you do when you don't get support from the community that you're in, basically, is your question.
Yes.
Got it? Okay,
Yes.
good. Well, you have a few things you can do. One is, since association is Sangha is the most important thing, if you're in a community that's not supporting your Krishna consciousness, go to another community that does. If that's not possible, then you have to look within the community only at those people that that support you, and really ignore the rest, because that's what happens in LA, for example. The community got a lot smaller. It used to be 600 devotees here, but it got a lot smaller, and you found naturally the people that you wanted to be with, and you kind of weren't with the people you didn't want to be with. So let's say some people like to go on the weekends, they'd like to exercise and go on bikes, so you would be with that group. Or another group was into dramas, so you'd be with that group. And or some people like to create Sura, the late Sura Das, he formed a bhajan band, and they found a lot of gigs all over Los Angeles to do that they were invited to do by other groups. And you just kind of find your own micro group within the group, even if it's only one or two other people. But as Prabhupada said, 1 or 100, there has to be compatibility. If there's not compatibility, you can't fit a square peg into a round hole. And if people are not supporting you the way you feel you need to be supported, you either have to create an environment for yourself, like I've done. I've created my own preaching center, my own standards of how we like to invite people and serve people here. It's not dependent on the temple administration. The temple administration in New Dwarka is good at maintaining, but for a city of 22 million people, metropolitan area, 22 million people, with one temple after 40 some years, that's a pretty sour, pretty bad record, really. But for the book distribution to be continuing, that's a very good record. So there's no, you have to kind of figure it out. You have to, you're dealt a certain hand in this life. Some people are born autistic. Some people are born with a community that supports them. Some people are born where they're alienated from the people around them. And somehow or another, you as the source, you're the source of your own life. You have to figure out how to create it in such a way that it helps you in your Krishna consciousness. Because the material energy, Kali, is always at work trying to make things difficult for you, for every one of us. And we're always trying to kind of adjust to that attempt by Maya to challenge our advancement in Krishna consciousness. And it's true in whatever community you're in. You know, the Alachua community in Florida is 800 devotees, but they don't all get along. They have their little groups. They get together, little men's groups, or they're, you know, that certain men are in and certain men are out, and certain women groups. And there's different numbers of them. So you got to get creative here. And you can't point the finger and say it's their fault. They're not this, they're not that. No, it's Krishna's arrangement for every one of us. That's the beauty of this 18th chapter. It's all, you got to see everything as Krishna's making some arrangement, and you're just surfing. You're like a surfer on a wave trying to stay up. And however that however the shape of that wave and the speed of that wave, you have to adjust. And it's all according to Krishna's plan, just perfectly designed. The people around us, our whole bodily physio psycho makeup, it's all perfectly designed for our advancement in Krishna consciousness. Despite our misgivings, our distaste for it, that's what Krishna gave us for us to advance. And it's harder for some and easier for others. And that's really hard to digest, but that's just the way it is.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for that answer to that all-important question. I love everything you've shared with us today. And we pray and hope that we can have more and more of your association, Prabhuji. Please, please honor our request to hearing from you next time we call on you.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to be of service.
But I have a question. I haven't asked you a question. I have a question. I haven't had this question yet. See, in SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, I think, if I may put it here on the screen, this is 1:17:20, still talking about the same marriage parikshit. It says there are also some thinkers who believe that no one can ascertain the cause of distress by argumentation, nor know it by imagination, nor express it by words. O sage amongst kings, judge for yourself by thinking over all this with your, with your own intelligence. And we're talking about, Srila Prabhupada always talking about sincerity and intelligence. So we require intelligence. But it's very interesting how Srila Prabhupada writes in this purport, and also the way he concludes it. It says, now let us see how he, that is Maharaj Parikshit, solves it by his sagacious mind. And I like the word sagacious because Srila Prabhupada is using this word, which sagacious, according to the dictionary, means that having or showing keen mental discernment and good judgment. In other words, a very shrewd person. Now, using our mind to ascertain things, using our intelligence to ascertain things, obviously show that this person is growing up. You know, we want to relate with people who are growing up people. So my question to you in this regard is that as aspiring devotees, like you explained, as aspiring devotees, how are we able to use our mind and intelligence in line with what we read in the scriptures to ascertain that this is the right thing to do at this particular juncture? Because what may be good for me to do yesterday may not be good for me to do it today. What may be good for me to do in relationship with what what's going on between me and you may not be the same thing that may be applicable to me and the other person. So how do we use the mind and intelligence when we are actually in this very, very immature spiritual stage of our lives? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Excellent question. Beautiful purport and verse there. I stood at a crossroads and fate came to meet me. In a crisis, in crossroads, the best of who we are can come out. And a crossroads in life is somewhere between the old and familiar, but you walk the path you haven't traveled. All these types of quotes about crossroads come to the stage of how do we make the decision what direction to go in? And for that, it's a very simple answer. Because Prabhupada marries these two things. Sincerity, we get to the crossroads. But which way to go? That's intelligence. And how do we get intelligence? What is the source of intelligence? Krishna says, I am the source of all intelligence, right? So how do we become intelligent? In this day and age, intelligence comes from Krishna. Krishna gives us intelligence, buddhi, through the chanting of the holy names. So when we don't know what to do, we need intelligence. We may have the sincerity. We have to simply rely on the very means of deliverance in this age. The chanting of the Maha Mantra, Harinama, 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 Kevala. Hello, Nasteva, 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 Gatiranya. That is our only refuge. It is the only place where we can source intelligence through our surrender to the holy names. There is no other answer because you don't own intelligence. It is given to you. You don't own your thoughts. They are automatic by your karma, or they are inspired by Guru and Gauranga. You own nothing. My brother-in-law was once, I came to him, I said, George, I got a problem. He says, I don't have any problems. I said, what do you mean you don't have any problems? You're married to my sister, for God's sakes. You got a ton of problems. He said, with straight face, he says, I don't have any problems. God owns all the problems. All I have is my next indicated action. So profound. My next indicated action. And how is it indicated? People don't know what to do. Last time my wife and I, we were talking about moving. Why? Because the county laws have become so onerous. We can't carry on with our rental business. We can't carry on with our Airbnb business. They're limiting everybody to everything. They're just crushing mom and pop landlords, crushing them. They want to drive them out completely. I said, we need to move. She says, but where? I said, I don't know, but we got to move. We can't make it here anymore. We're not going to be able to meet our bills. We should sell. We've been here 42 years. I've been here. So we have to move. She said, well, I don't know where we should move to. I said, we just have to chant and Krishna will reveal it. And when he'll reveal it at the time we're supposed to know. That's the kind of faith you have to have, that Krishna will give you the intelligence at the time that you need it. And then you'll know what direction to take. Through the chanting of the holy names, it's the only thing we got in the age of Kali, and it's the only thing that works. And I think it's a good place to end this Zoom session on, because ultimately we start with chanting and ultimately we end with chanting. The glorification of the holy names. That's our business. It's our main business, it's our family business, and it's the only business. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. So, on this note, we're going to humbly request all the devotees to kindly unmute, and then we go through our routine ritual by chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our appreciation to our revered speaker, His Grace NRSIMHANANDA Prabhu, and also beg of him to have his association more and more. Hare Krishna. Okay, please. So please kindly go ahead and then unmute, and then let's do that. Okay. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
NRSIMHANANDA Prabhu ki jai.